They called him mad. They locked him away. And 24 hours later, he was dead. But here's what they never told you. The man they called the Mad King built the most beautiful things the world had ever seen. And the people who destroyed him, they did it for money. This is the story of Ludwig II of Bavaria. And it will break your heart. He was born into a world that expected nothing from him except obedience. 1845, the Kingdom of Bavaria, a royal family with an ancient name, ancient rules, and ancient ideas about what a king should be. Ludwig grew up inside palaces that felt like prisons, cold, formal, suffocating. His father was distant, his tutors were strict. Affection was a luxury the royal household did not provide. But Ludwig had something they could not take from him. He had his imagination. From childhood, he disappeared into books, into music, into the operas of Richard Wagner, which he heard for the first time at 16, and which shattered something open inside him that would never fully close. Wagner's music was not just sound, it was a world of knights and dragons, and sacred quests, and love so powerful it transcended death. Ludwig wanted to live inside that world. He never quite managed to live in the real one. At 18, he became King of Bavaria. He was not prepared. He was not interested in politics, in military strategy, in the grinding machinery of governance. He was tall, dark-haired, extraordinarily handsome. The newspapers called him the most beautiful king in Europe. And he sat on the throne of Bavaria, looking like a man who had wandered into the wrong room and couldn't find the door. His ministers tried to manage him. His family tried to guide him. Ludwig smiled, nodded, and then disappeared for weeks into the mountains. But he did one thing as king that no one expected. He found Wagner. He was 18 years old when he summoned the composer to Munich, paid off his enormous debts, gave him a house, an income, and complete freedom to create. Wagner was 50 years old, broke, and running from creditors across half of Europe. Ludwig saved him. Without Ludwig II, Wagner's ring cycle would never have been completed. Tristan and Isolde might never have been performed. The entire course of Western music, different. This is what the Mad King gave the world, before they took everything from him. But the real project, the one that consumed him, wasn't music. It was stone. Ludwig began building. Not the kind of building that kings did. Practical, military, political. Ludwig built dreams. He built fairy tales. He built the impossible made solid. Neuschwanstein. The castle that every child in the world has seen in a picture, in a painting, in a Disney logo. That castle was Ludwig's private obsession. He designed it himself, obsessively, changing plans and adding towers and demanding that every detail be exactly as he imagined it. Throne rooms lined with gold, bedrooms carved with medieval legends, a study that recreated the sacred forest from Wagner's operas in painted murals covering every wall. He never finished it. He lived in it for exactly 172 days before they came for him. Then Linderhof, a palace so ornate that visitors wept when they first saw it. A grotto with an underground lake lit by colored electric lights, where Ludwig rode a golden swan boat alone in the dark, listening to music echo off the cave walls. Then Herrenchiemsee, his version of Versailles, built on an island, larger than the original, more detailed, more obsessive. A hall of mirrors longer than the one in France, built for a king who intended to use it as a place of solitary reflection. Not for courts, not for diplomacy, not for anyone. He almost never invited guests. He was building these places for himself. For the version of himself that existed only in his imagination, a medieval king, a knight, a character from Wagner's operas made flesh. The money was running out. His ministers watched the budgets collapse with growing alarm. Ludwig borrowed. He sent letters to foreign banks. He considered, seriously, sending agents to rob banks on his behalf. The situation was becoming impossible. And here is where the story turns dark. Because the ministers had a solution. Not to the financial problem. They could have managed that. Restructured debts. Negotiated with creditors. The solution they chose was simpler. Get rid of Ludwig. In June 1886, a commission of psychiatrists declared Ludwig II officially insane. The report stated that he was paranoid, delusional, unfit to rule. It was signed by 4 doctors. Not one of them had examined him in person. Not one. They declared a man mad. A man they had never spoken to, never evaluated, never sat across a table from, and used that declaration to strip him of his throne. Ludwig was 40 years old. He had been king for 22 years. He was taken to Berg Castle on the shores of Lake Starnberg and placed under guard. He was told he would never be free again. What happened next, nobody fully knows. June 13th, 1886, the day after his arrest. Ludwig asked his psychiatrist, Dr. Bernhard von Guden, to accompany him on an evening walk along the lake shore. The guards were told to stay behind. They walked into the early summer evening. Neither of them came back. Hours later, their bodies were found, floating in the shallow water near the shore. The lake was less than waist deep where they were found. Ludwig was a strong swimmer. Von Guden showed signs, physical signs, of a struggle. Marks on his face, scratches on his hands. The official verdict, Ludwig drowned himself. Suicide. But the water where he was found was not deep enough to drown in accidentally. And not deep enough to drown in intentionally for a man who could simply stand up. No water was found in his lungs, a fact buried in the original autopsy that surfaced decades later. He didn't drown. So what happened on the shore of Lake Starnberg on that summer evening? Some historians believe he was trying to escape, that a boat had been arranged, that loyal servants had a plan, and that something went wrong. That the men sent to stop him made sure he never reached that boat. Others believe he was shot, that the wound was concealed, that the body was arranged to look like drowning, that an inconvenient king was quietly removed by people who had far more to gain from his death than from his madness. The truth died with him in that lake. Neuschwanstein was opened to the public 7 weeks after Ludwig's death. 7 weeks. The castle he had built as a private sanctuary, the dream he had poured himself into for 17 years, became a tourist attraction before his body was cold. His ministers, the same men who had declared him insane, began selling tickets. In the first year alone, hundreds of thousands of people walked through the rooms he had designed for solitude. Today, Neuschwanstein receives over 1.4 million visitors every year. It is the most photographed building in Germany. It inspired the Sleeping Beauty castle at Disneyland. Every child who has ever dreamed of a fairy tale castle has Ludwig to thank for it. The man they called mad built the most visited castle on Earth. The men who called him mad are forgotten. There is a photograph of Ludwig taken in 1880, 6 years before his death. He is standing in the mountains above Bavaria, looking at something beyond the frame of the picture. He is wearing a dark coat. His expression is not the expression of a madman. It is the expression of a man who is very, very tired. Tired of being misunderstood. Tired of a world that wanted him to be something he was not. Tired of sitting in rooms where people talked about money and politics, while he could hear, in his head, the music that Wagner wrote for the world, that Ludwig alone seemed to truly love. He was not mad. He was somewhere else entirely. In a castle that existed first in his mind, then in stone, and now, long after the people who destroyed him are dust, in the dreams of millions of people who have never heard his name. The Mad King of Bavaria, the man who built paradise and was buried before he could live in it.